Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Today, Laura Thurman of Laura Thurman Design Studio in Nashville, Tennessee joins me. Laura specializes in a global aesthetic that's filtered through a modern lens influenced by her upbringing in Los Angeles as well as her world travels. Thurman Design Studio services include custom interiors, e-design, weekend styling, and infill developer selections. Laura talks about how important it is to her to educate her clients about the interior design process. And to that end, she explains right on her website to her clients and her potential clients the difference between off-the-shelf and custom-made. I asked Laura about this during the interview. We also talk about how Laura is harnessing the power of building meaningful relationships with peers and industry leaders, helping grow her firm. In fact, our meeting is directly because of her commitment to getting out of her box, to reaching out and asking for advice, and for remembering to return the favor and to think of ways to give value back to the new colleagues and mentors she has met. Laura is a delight, and I'm sure you're going to like her. Now, please keep in mind our new sponsor, FreshBooks. Of course, I know FreshBooks didn't exactly invent the invoice, but FreshBooks can take a long bow for reinventing how invoices are used and for transforming how small business owners like us deal with their time-sucking piles of admin and paperwork. FreshBooks makes ridiculously easy to use cloud accounting software that simplifies and speeds up invoicing, tracking expenses, and getting paid online. Please don't hesitate to give FreshBooks a trial run for your interior design firm and see for yourself how it can improve your efficiency, your organization, and your ability to run your business like a grown-up. Go to freshbooks.com/Luann and put in your how you heard about them. Tell them you heard about them from the podcast, and you'll get your free offer as a listener of the show. Okay, let's see what Laura Thurman has to teach us today about building her business and her network through intentional networking. Hey, Laura, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. I'm so excited to be on the show.
I know. I always laugh when I'm introducing somebody that I've already met.
Well, it's nice. I feel like I can connect with you again. You know?
I know. It's like so cool, right? So we're carrying on, and I'm just going to tell everybody that we met in Atlanta. So when I was speaking at America's Mart with Sandra Funk and Mark McDonough and Sarah Daniele, and you were there in the audience, and I was like, hi.
Well, because you see people through social media and all that, and you feel like you know them. But then you're like, wait, I've never actually met her.
I know. Isn't it funny? It's so funny. I have said that a couple of times on the show too, and I've said it in real life when I'll be just like that. I'll see you. We just walk up, we hug, we say hello, we start talking. Next thing you know, you're like, I actually don't actually know you, do I? It's like you just think you do. You feel like you do, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You told me a story that, that was one of those, my line is you had me at hello stories. So you told me a story how the very first time you listened to the podcast, it was a particular episode, and that so many things have happened to you since that first listen. So I'm going to let you tell everybody the story, Laura.
Yeah, well, as an entrepreneur, you're trying to find ways to grow and educate yourself in the business, in the interior design industry. And it's actually my husband said, you need to listen to like a podcast because I'm totally one of those, what do you think about this, babe? Or what do you think about that? And he's like,
I don't have any idea.
Yeah, he's totally tired of listening to me, probably all my crazy ideas. So I was like, okay, let's give this whole podcast thing give it a chance. So I just Googled design podcasts. Yours came up. And the very first episode I listened to, you had Amy Flurry with Recipe for Press as the speaker. And I just remember tuning in and like grabbing a notepad and a piece of paper as fast as I could. Taking notes like a crazy person. I just thought this is like golden. This is such golden information. Like I was so thrilled to find a podcast that is catered to interior designers. So, shout out to you, Luann. And I love everything that you're doing. I love listening to the podcast.
Thank you.
And like I said, like I told you, off air, the podcast really was like the platform to helping me get into the concept of networking and building relationships. So I listened to Amy's podcast with you, and you mentioned at the end, she had a book and go check it out. And I was like, totally, I'm there. So I got the book like the same day, I think like the next hour probably. and I read through it, and it just changed my whole world. Like it changed my whole concept about how to get press and PR for yourself. And that's basically the premise of the book. And I just didn't even know that was achievable, to be honest. I thought I'm not going to get press or anything until I'm, in my 50s, until I can afford to pay a PR
There's
firm.
nothing wrong with press in your 50s, by the way, Laura.
Sorry to all you listeners out there. Like, no, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm 30, okay?
You didn't want to wait. I get it.
Yeah, I don't want to wait. I'm trying to like make things happen.
Impatient millennial.
Yeah, I know. Patience is not one of my virtues, let me tell you. Oh my goodness. So tangent. But yeah, I was like, how can I achieve this on my own now? So I read the book and I just reached out to Amy on Instagram, direct message, and I'm totally like a closed mouth doesn't get fed kind of person. The worst you can do the least you can do is ask, and the worst that can happen is they don't respond, or they respond with not interested or sorry, don't have time for you, whatever. So I was like, what do I have to lose? And she was so, gracious. And I just said, like, I just love the book. I learned so much. And can we stay in touch? She's absolutely. So we met up at High Point, and that's how I finally got to meet her face to face. And through this relationship / really it's become more of like a mentorship relationship with her, I have had doors open for me that I just could have never foreseen in the last, 6 months even. And so, how I shared with you, I wish that as a young designer, even in high school, I wish that I had cultivated the skill and tact of like networking and marketing yourself and building professional relationships within our industry. I just thought in school, man, another one of those like stuffy designer functions and everyone's just schmoozing. Like, I don't want to go to that. I don't know why I had that mentality, but I did. And I now being on my own, having my own firm, I realize how critical and important it is. It helps you not to feel alone, helps you be more prepared and equipped. Just all the facets of being an entrepreneur. I just felt like, man, that was one I missed out on. Like, so I feel like I'm playing catch up, but it's been really great. I see now the importance of networking and building, these professional relationships.
Well, I would say a couple things in there is that you might not have understood the value of it when you were a student, but you certainly have figured out pretty early. I mean, you're only in business 2.5 years. So you have, it's not like you waited to your 50s and thought, oh, maybe I should, expand my network a little. So I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, Laura. That's number one. Number two, I want to say that Amy Flurry was on episode 108, and
yes.
I agree. I love meeting Amy. Instantly a warm, giving person and so smart. And the book is amazing. She sent me a copy of the book. It was very nice of her to send that to me after the interview. And it's a fabulous book. But I have to say that there's something different in somebody that reads a book and says, oh, there's a lot of good ideas there. And there's something else about somebody that reads a book and 6 months later has created some of the opportunities that you've created for yourself. So I would love for you, Laura, to think back for when you read the book and you were taking notes on the podcast interview and on reading the book. What were some of the ahas and what were some of the things that you can say, well, this is one of the things I really did do, and yada, yada. This is what she said and this is what I did.
Yeah. Well, the first thing was about the delivery of your information. So meaning it is all about the pitch and how to craft a pitch. And I had no clue about that. I mean, in my mind, it could have been a 5 paragraph long, but in the book, she really breaks down the essence of how to pitch an idea. And so I took that not just as I want to pitch my project or even pitch myself to a magazine or some kind of editorial content, but also just in business in general. Like a pitch is, I'm pitching to a client, a design client, right? This is the concept I want to present to you. That's a pitch, more or less.
Exactly.
It's a design presentation.
You're selling every day.
Yeah, selling it. So the elements of being really concise and short and like to the point, I was like, okay, so it's not this overly wordy, over dramatic. Oh, I'm just so excited to send you my friend. No, like these people are busy. You're busy. I'm busy. Quick, right? Quick, pithy, right to the point, draw them in with a really, visceral, awesome image of your product or your design. And so that was like one of the things that really kind of hooked me in. And the same with you. I was like, I want to be on Luann's podcast. Like, that's a pitch. Like, how can I make this happen? Like, and so, but also there has to be like some sort of, genuine authenticity there, right? Like, don't pitch to something you've never read the publication of. Like, don't ask to participate in a podcast or be a guest blogger if you've never even like talked to the person, or you don't listen to the podcast, or you don't read the blog. Like, that's kind of counterintuitive, but you know what I mean? I think just we can get excited.
You would be surprised that you need to explain that to people, wouldn't you?
You get excited and you're like, I can see myself in that. I want to be in that. And you're like, oh wait, I don't even subscribe to that.
Right,
I don't even listen or read it.
Right, because wasn't Amy describing how as an editor, so often she would get projects pitched to her that didn't align with the magazine that she was editing. She's like, did you even look at our magazine? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
or even like, why? Like she asked that question, why do you want press? Why?
Right.
Like, why do you want to build these relationships? Yeah. Like, why do I want to build a relationship with brands or, other professionals in this industry? Why? Like, what's the purpose of that? So what's like your end goal? So I had to really kind of map it out. After I read the book, I kind of did some exercises for myself and just breaking down, okay, these are the publications I'm interested in. This is where I think my project or myself would fit well. And then do your homework. Like, I had to do my research, like really get on there and look through, like, do I actually fit? Just because I want to be in it doesn't mean, doesn't mean I'm doesn't mean it really aligns. So that was a big part of it. And then just, I felt like I did see a thread of in the book just about having gumption and about having courage and really speaking up and kind of going after it. Like, she may have laid the groundwork, but you still have to do the grunt work. Right. Like, you still have to go out there and make it happen. And so for me, kind of cultivating that relationship with her, that opened up doors to other things. Like, she invited me to an event that we went to in High Point, and it was just this intimate, really special setting with several different women in the industry. We all just got together and had dinner and just talked, and I may or may not have been like the youngest person there, but I was just like in heaven. I
saw the pictures of that. I don't often have FOMO, but when I saw the pictures of that, I was, oh my goodness, I would have loved to have been at that dinner. That really looked like a special night. It was a really group of wonderful people.
It really was.
Yes.
And I just felt like honored to have even been invited to that. I was like, seriously, I can't believe it. And so, like you said, it was at the Red Egg showroom, which everyone should go visit if they've never been. It's just magical, like magic. It was just so beautiful. And so, it was just like this wonderful evening together. And I made relationships there. And I just said, you know what, I connect with this person. And Jane Dagme with Steelyard, Steelyard Access was one of them.
She's
and I was
a great
like,
lady too, right?
Awesome, like authentic, genuine, experience. And I was like, I'm gonna seek her out. Like, I want to have a relationship with her outside of this dinner. Like, how can I keep that going? And so we did. We just kind of, I would call on her for advice, and we would bounce ideas around with each other. And from that, I kind of communicated to her, hey, I'd like to do some kind of brand partnership and kind of partner up with a furniture line, Universal. And she was like, oh, well, Steelyard, we have a great connection with them. Let's see if we can set up a meeting. And so that door opened there. And so, you just never know, right?
It's crazy. Like, it's almost like an Alice in Wonderland of doors opening.
One of my crazy ideas, like Amy will totally say, Laura's never short of ideas. I just threw a crazy idea out there. Like, just bait, like not even sure anyone would bite on it. And then sure enough, here I am, like having a meeting with like the creative marketing director of Universal. And I was like,
Unreal.
what is happening right now? Like I can't, so.
But here, let me just cut it up a little there. Let me just cut through it a little bit. What is happening right there is two things. Is that you gave some serious thought to your why, right? You gave some serious thought to what you were doing, why you were doing it. And the second thing is that you, like you said, you don't take it personally. If somebody, the least that could happen is that they say yes, and the worst that could happen is that they say no. You're not like, and that is a struggle for people though, Laura. So I hear that you're good with it. I'm good with it too. Do you know what I'm saying? But there are a lot of people that's a struggle to just put themselves out there and to email, or to private message Amy Flurry, and then to keep a relationship going with Jane and things like that. And so the thing is, to give us some, I think what it is I think that you know it and do it instinctively. And so you're not realizing that you're skipping a step for some people listening that need a little help in order to do it. So when you said, after I left that dinner that night, I wanted to continue to have a relationship with Jane. What did you do in order to continue that relationship that wasn't icky and wiggy and she looked at you and like you're out of your mind, baby designer.
Like stalker,
Exactly.
stalker, leave me alone.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about how you tastefully cultivated, like you used the word tact before we went on air. How did you tactfully cultivate that relationship?
So at the dinner that we had, I was very intentional about being present, right? You know how you can go to meetings or events and you're just like not really there. You're there, but like mentally you're not there. But I would just saw that as like, I'm so honored to be here and I'm just going to soak this up and I want to be like alert. I'm present. I'm in the conversations. And so I just remember in my mind making mental notes like, okay, we connect with, and it could be anything, like it doesn't all have to be so serious. It could just be, we love fashion and fashion influences our design. Like, and Jane is like, if anyone knows her, she's super stylish. Like I'm always like, when I grow up, I want to be you. So I remember thinking about that. And then, like her business, like she works for Steelyard. So that was a connection right there. And actually I had not been very exposed to that. So I saw that as like my in, like, well, I don't know anything about Steelyard and she works for them. Like, why not have her educate me on what that is? So I knew like when I left the party, like that was one in, like I want to learn more about the company she's working for because I knew that they catered to designers, but I didn't know how. And so I emailed her a couple of days after we got out, after the dinner. And I just said, like, I just so enjoyed getting to know you, meeting you. When can we hang out again? Like, can we talk at least? Like, can I just, and I was just upfront, like you said, like, I was just kind of direct and just said, I generally want to like keep a conversation going. Like I want to cultivate a relationship with you. And she was, so gracious and responsive. Absolutely. Sure thing. So we kind of like maybe on the business front, it's sort of how it started because like I said, I didn't know about Steelyard. So then when we talked, she educated me on all that. And then we just kind of kept in touch. Like I would text every now and then, like cool. She's, having an editorial background, both her and Amy, they always take these like evocative images on Instagram and like all this quirky stuff. So I know that Jane was kind of quirky. And so if I was at an art gallery or out with friends or whatever, and I saw a picture that I knew kind of, reminded me of her, I would send it to her.
Nice.
And so it was just like these little, what I would call like little Hansel and Gretel crumbs that you kind of like leave way, right? Like to show, I want to keep this relationship going. Like I respect you. I admire you. I want to be friends with you. And not like you said, not in a weird way.
I like it. No, I like it. And the thing is, it's nice to just explain it a little bit sometimes for somebody who would like to emulate what you've done. Do you know what I mean? So I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us. So what happens now? So you've got this little bit of relationship going on, and then Jane has this connection with Universal. Then you get introduced to the creative marketing director of Universal, and boom, we're off to the races. And you're 2.5 years in business. I mean, it's insanity. So tell us a little bit about what's going on. There's something in the works there, right?
Yeah, I mean, so the meeting went well, really great. And I kind of, like you were saying, maybe for those listening who are just kind of shy or don't really know how to approach it. I mean, I went in to the meeting intentional, saying I have an idea. I may not have worked out all the details, but I could at least clearly communicate the idea. And we were kind of on the same page. And I was like, Great. So what now? So we basically just said, let's follow up after. I mean, literally, I was like freaking out, Luann. I really was. I was just like, how like a deer in the headlights. Like, is this actually happening? This is happening. Like, I put it out there, right? I put my idea out there into the ether, and look what happened. It just came back.
That's
So
great.
we decided we would collaborate on a project together. So we're doing that. We're going to have kind of the reveal in a couple weeks, and they're going to bring a few people from their crew are going to come down and kind of do the full like reveal to the client. And we used, all of Universal Furniture in it, and just have this, really special experience being able to show the backside of how designers source and use trade goods, because that's really what I like. I like the storytelling and the conceptual side of how did this design project even come to be, right? Our clients inspire us. How they intend to use the space will give me direction on how to design it. So they want to capture all of that. So yeah, I mean, there's this amazing collaboration happening that I'm super, super excited and really grateful about. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Like the things that are happening and the things that you describe, it's almost like you're in business 20 years. It's like hysterical. But, it goes to that you're very intentional. It goes to that, you're not worried. I just, it's funny because I just did a Facebook Live, or I did a pre-recorded video and put it on Facebook a couple of days, a week ago or so ago, whatever it was. And by the time this goes up on air, maybe it'll be a month later. But it was about cold calling. And the thing is, I'd give 2 tips for cold calling. And, the one thing that I said is that I understand when you're cold calling, it feels, like a rejection if it doesn't happen, that it feels personal. I said, but the reality is that by nature, the cold call is a cold call. It is not personal. The person is not rejecting your person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They don't know anything about you.
No, that's just it. And it's like, and I have to say, a lot of people have commented on the Facebook video going, oh yeah, like I forgot that part. You know what I mean? And so the thing is, for people that it comes easier. You know what I mean? Whatever your background is, whatever your upbringing is, I can hear it, that you just like walk in a room and think, okay, I'll throw a dart. Let's see what happens. But it's not that way for everybody. So I love that, you break it down and explain it. And you went into the meeting with Universal with, again, your why. What did you want to see happen here? And you could have gone in with a complete why and a complete, this is how I see this. And they might not have gone for it, but they would have, A, respected you as a business person, and B, it would have given them a jumping off point to say, not that, but maybe this. You know what I mean? In your case, awesome. It worked out. They said, yeah, I love the idea. Let's do it.
Well, and it gave me an opportunity to, kind of practice. I mean, it wasn't like an interview. I wouldn't say it wasn't that serious. It was very laid back. We had drinks. Like, it was at their showroom. It was pretty, like, the setting was nice and very casual, which was great because I was a little nervous. But yeah, like you said, I mean, at the very least, I had a conversation with like someone high up there. That's and it gave me opportunity to communicate my ideas and practice, if anything else, if nothing else. Like, at least I had FaceTime. I put it out there. And like you said, you never know how the door will open. And I remember listening to the episode that you had with Amber Lewis and how she said she had really thick skin.
Yep.
And I do feel like that is critical as an entrepreneur. And even if you don't have it, you kind of have to fake it, fake it or cultivate that thick skin over time. And I mean, I get bummed out too. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there are times I've reached out to people and I even thought to myself, like, I'm so crazy. Like, they're never going to respond. Why am I even reaching out? Like, I'm a nobody. Like, why are they not going to respond to me? But, you just never know. Like, I think you can't go into it with that mindset. You can't go into it with defeated and already assuming like the worst. I mean, I think it's fair to assume, hey, you may never hear anything. And that's usually the worst that happens, right?
Right.
You send a message, no one responds, crickets. But that's fine. Like, that doesn't say anything about me or my idea. You don't know what's going on the other side with them.
Well, that's the other thing.
busy.
You also don't always know what's going on the other side. I mean, I have to say, I had a situation with the podcast where the first 6 months or so that the podcast was up, I mean, listen, the first 6 months I was scrambling for live bodies to put them on the air. Let's be real. Nobody knew about the podcast, nobody knew what was happening, and nobody was banging down my door saying, can I be on your podcast, right?
Right.
And so the same thing. I went from super, like, you've got to be kidding me, they would never say yes, to anybody that looked like they were breathing. But you know me, I always have to have to me, one of the things I've always learned, I'm just going to stop for a second and explain this. One of the things that I've always known is that because I've been a part of NAJABA, which is New Jersey Association of Women Business Owners, and I've been a part of a lot of big, bold business women in New Jersey, a lot of different things like that. And I knew before I went into the podcast that just like this conversation here, you're in business 2.5 years and I'm going to learn something from you. I have already learned something from you. Do you know what I'm saying? So even when I was trying to find guests for the beginning, it wasn't that they had to be a name or anything like that. It's sort of like Universal is looking at you and you're only 2.5 years in business and they're doing the same thing. They're not saying, oh, that's a great idea. We're now going to take it over to Candace Olsen. Do you know what I mean? Like a big name, right? And so the thing is that, in the beginning, I'm doing pitches I used to spend every single Sunday just doing cold email pitches to designers all the way from brand newbies all the way to, super crazy, like they're never even going to open the email. And the funny thing is there was a situation with a particular designer that I reached out probably 3 times over about an 8-month period and nothing, not even a response. Okay. And by the third time I thought, you could at least just say no. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking to myself. But then what's funny is it was another good 6 or 7 months later that I learned. And of course, nothing happened. And the last time I just thought that was it. But a good 6 or 7 months later, quite by accident, having no idea that one person knew another person, I found out that designer had been going through a whole year worth of very deep, serious, personal drama, tragedy. Yeah. And so, and that's the thing. It's just like you don't know what you're catching on the other end. And so, and that was my message in the video was, it's not about you. It's what's about you is what you can do. You can, do like you do. Make your pitch, make your request, send your email, and some are going to answer and some are not. And it just don't worry about it. Just keep plugging. So I think this is really terrific. Are there other things in the book specifically that you can remember of Amy's book that you can specifically remember thinking, that was a cool thing and I hadn't thought of that before and she learned it from the book?
Well, there was something cool I thought was interesting. You could look at a project, like let's say you're at WindowWorks or working on a project for a client and it turned out beautifully and you photographed it and you want to pitch it. And you may think very like in a very narrow way about the story or the pitch and not see all the different facets around it. And so that's kind of something I learned. Like there are different offshoots from one project. Like an editor is looking at how many different stories can I get from this one project? And in my mind, I was like, really? Like, can you really compartmentalize all of that? Like it could be you as the business owner, then the space with the client. And then, well, what about this? Maybe they work from home and they have this really special, unique office space, like or the neighborhood they live. How long have they lived there? Like they've moved to a new place. And so that was really interesting because to me, I just thought I had to just have just straight up design project. It's just about how pretty it looks in the picture. And that's what I'm going to pitch. But when in fact, you should consider the stories and the different offshoots around that. Like, so when I said, I want to find a way to get some press myself. And I was talking to Amy about it. And she's like, well, there's multiple stories there. Like you're from LA, you moved to Nashville. Like that's a story right there. Like you're an LA designer, your own aesthetic there, and now you're moving to this, southern country bumpkin area. And like I'm trying to bring this SoCal aesthetic and more global and kind of bohemian aesthetic that I personally love. I want to bring that here to Nashville. So that's a story. Like it's not just always about the project. Like it could actually be about you and your transition or your personal home. And so my home is really, it is pretty eclectic and all over the place. We renovated our house a year ago. And I said, she's like, well, what about your house? And I was like, yeah, what about it? Like, that would be a cool project to pitch. And so I did. And, hopefully be on the lookout soon. There's some good things happening with that. Like hopefully our personal home will get featured. So that was interesting. Like think wide, right? Think broad, think big picture about a project or yourself. Like, do you have a interesting story or the product you sell, the process of how it's made, or, you know what I mean? Like there are a lot of stories can be found in just one project. It doesn't have to be so linear. think outside the box.
Well, and Amy shared that too. I remember her talking about that, but I also remember Ren Miller. I don't know if you listened to the episode with Ren Miller. He was early in the podcast, first couple of months, and he's the editor of Design New Jersey, which is it's a really nice high-end shelter magazine here in New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah, and he said the same thing. He specifically talked at length about what is the story for this project, and if the story is interesting and we can build something around that yes, the design has to be good and the pictures have to be beautiful and all of that, but if there's no story attached to it, just as you just said, it's not just flip art here. It's a magazine, and they want to draw people into it with the content that is greater than or as equal to at least to the pictures that are there. And the other thing too that you said at some point that reminded me of what Ren said when you were talking about your pitches is that it's, on one hand, we feel intimidated to pitch editors, okay? And we should have our ducks in a row, the way both Amy and Ren suggest, which is to know the magazine or the platform, whichever it is, whatever is appropriate, and know if you actually do fit and align to it, and you should make it short and sweet and everything else. But the one thing that I remember that was my aha moment talking to Ren was he wants pitches. He's looking every month to fill his magazine, and
They're
I'm
looking
like,
for content.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was just such a flip around perspective for me. You feel like, oh, you're intruding and hey, here I am, Mr. Editor, I've got an idea for a thing. And really the lesson in both Amy and Red's podcast was that yes, it's a pain and it's an annoyance and an intrusion if you haven't done your homework and you are not a right fit and you don't know anything about our magazine or our platform, and you give me this long-winded 9,000 paragraph pitch with 400 pictures attached to it. Yes, that's annoying. But the right pitch, they want every day, and they want a lot of them.
Well, and another thing on that note, with what you're talking about, is it's always best to start, what I learned, which is plastered all throughout the book, and just as I'm learning about press and all that, you need to start local. Start small and grow. Yeah. And I just thought that's so lame. Locals, whatever. I want to be she's like, yeah, but you're like nobody. You know what I mean? She didn't say that to me. I said that to myself. But but that idea of it's gain some credibility and some substance locally, and or just small, with maybe smaller publications or popular blogs that would take feature you or whatever, and then work your way up. And I feel like doing that also helps to cultivate how can I say it? Confidence. Right. Looking for the word, right? So start little and then work your way up. And yeah, I think anyone pitching to these big national publications or even just trying to go into a meeting, a really legit, healthy meeting that could mean something for your business can be intimidating. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. Even with the whole networking and stuff, like I said, I think ultimately, I was just afraid when I was younger. I just don't know what to say. What am I going to do? I'm a pretty social person. And even then, looking back, I'm like, I should have just pushed myself to get it together and gone to these events. But that also helped. If you join local networking groups in your city where you're not forced, that sounds bad, but where you show up every week, and everybody has their own little pitch about their business, what they do, what they're looking for. That really helps. That was a huge game changer for me. Consolidate and get your elevator pitch together helps you a lot. Helps you feel confident in what you're talking about, and you can convey something quickly and concisely.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if you heard the episode just a few weeks ago on Power Talk Friday with Nancy Ganskoffer. And it was your business in words. Yeah. Oh my God. That is the most, I'm telling you, effective tool that I have ever heard for getting that elevator pitch down and down in a powerful way. You know what I mean? Exactly. That's episode 256, and that I'm telling you, because it's one thing if you have your pitch down, and it's one thing, and then when people ask you, well, how would I do it? And you stand there and you're like, well, you got to this. No, not like that. No, yes, but that is just step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There's your pitch. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I was sick to my stomach the first time I went to a networking thing like that, and I had to do a pitch. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? This is bad. And I had to just go home and practice it. And I know that was awesome. She just broke it down. So, everyone can understand it. Like,
well, and the
and
thing
just
that I
practice.
loved about the way she broke it down is just because I felt like that it removes just what you just said. You said I was sick to my stomach the first time I had to go and do it in front of a group, and I feel like that removes that, because everything that she teaches in that is for you to figure out how you can express how you help somebody else.
Right.
And so now all of a sudden, it's not like most people feel sick in their stomach because it's like, I'm going to get up here and talk about me, 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 me. And I feel icky doing that. It feels weird. It feels egotistical. It feels like nobody wants to hear it. But her pitch literally flips it. This is what I do for this kind of person, and this is why it makes me happy, and this is the outcome. And I'm just like, whoa. I just think it's genius. So,
Well, even like for you, Lan, like, I mean, let me flip the interview around and interview Lan here
that would be fun for a change. Go ahead. I'm curious what you're going to say.
Well, I'm just curious for you. I mean, like, you have such an awesome, successful business, and you've been in the industry for a really long time. I mean, there had to have been a moment of like grassroots for you too, no? Like starting from the beginning and building your business relationships too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if it's on air yet or not, because I'm recording 9,000 interviews a day. So I never know what was out in public yet or not. But I was just recently saying how when we first started Window Works, and it was maybe about a year or so into it, I was like, okay, this is awesome. I can sell a lot of this stuff, but I always have to be there to sell it, right? And I'm like, how can I have more sales in the same amount of time? And so I went, well, who else sells what I sell to people? And where were they? And that's when I went, interior designers. They're doing projects, and window treatments are part of their project. So I said, I wonder where interior designers get their window treatments. Because let's be serious, I was 21 years old. It's not like I knew the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I wonder where they get there. So then I said, well, you know what? I'm going to make a list. And I went to the Yellow Pages, because that's how you found things then. And I made a list of like 20 interior designers that were in an X mile radius of our showroom. And Laura, I literally just started dialing the phone. Hi, my name is Luann. I'm from Window Works, and
you're crushing it, Luann. That's good. That's how you gumption, just like hitting the pavement. I mean, that's kind of how it is. Like, we're not. I mean, there's someone listening right now who's probably like, I'm just going to decide to start my own firm tomorrow or today. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and just slow. I mean, it's not like I've arrived. I'm still starting somewhere. I mean,
but you are killing it. Yeah. Well, and you know what?
The other.
I don't know how long you've been listening, but also Meryl San Pietro was also on the show, and she had a booming interior design business, and I'm not remembering exact details at this point, but I'm going to say about 20 years, okay, in, I think, Rhode Island area. I'm getting New England. That's all I'm getting in my brain. Sometimes I get, letters or regions, but in the New England area. And she decided, after 20 years or so in, that she wanted to have a design business in New York City. And she was just going to stake a claim in New York City. Her daughters were in their early, mid-20s at that point. I think one of them, I'm totally not remembering all the details. The show was over a year and a half ago. But one of them might have been living in New York. The other one looked like that she was going to ended up living there. And, it was just coming to the season of her life that she was like, you know what? I want to be in New York more. And in order to be there, I want to have some business there, and here she is 20 years into it, and she's knocked on doors. She literally made brochures for her interior design firm and literally walked in to high-rise luxury apartment buildings that were in construction and said, who is the person in charge of this project? And what she mostly did was she worked with the sales agents, the real estate sales agents in the different high-rise buildings. And here's what she did. She led with what she could do for them. She said, my name is Meryl. I'm an experienced interior designer. I understand that you probably have a lot of out-of-town, out-of-state, out-of-country clients that purchase in this building, and in order to move your projects along and make sure that the tile selections are done and the wood selections are done and the cabinet selections are done, it probably is very difficult for your construction team to rope all those details in. If you recommend me to your clients that purchase here, that I be their designer, I will make sure I package all this to you and bring it to you on time for every deadline.
Wow.
I'm telling you what, she
That's
killed
legit.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it a few times locally, like, because I work, so, half of my business is working with builders and developers. Oh, yeah. I'm the first to like, oh, I love this area. I love the start of this. I'm just going to hop out really quick and say, hey, who's the like, who's the like contract manager on site? And I mean, but that is so brave. She went into those like high rise, expensive in New York, man.
Yep.
See?
It's the truth. And you know, not like at 25 years old either. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so number one, and then number two, from it, so she goes out to 30 buildings, maybe 3 call her back and say, okay, you can have the next meeting. But from there, the relationships, and it's just like, from one podcast, you listen to Amy, you buy her book, you read her book, you call her. Now you're at a meeting with her at High Point, and then you're at a dinner with her at High Point. It just boom, 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 the domino rolls. Yeah. But it starts with reaching out. It starts with having a little confidence. You have to have some confidence. But I always say, think about, what like you said, what's the worst, what's the least that could happen. But, I often say, really feel the feeling of what it would feel like if it were successful. If you can really like just kind of close your eyes and think about what would it feel like if I sent this email and they answered it.
Right? You would have no hesitation,
right?
Because you'd be so worked up,
exactly,
and so excited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I ever promise anybody that if you send 10 are going to come back, but if you send 25, 1 is going to come back, and that feeling for 1 is great. It's gravy, and a lot of times you only need 1 to open up 5 doors. Look at the doors that all open for you. So. Yeah. I think it's great. Good for you. Now, we didn't talk about Darla yet. So, tell me, I know that you and I got connected through Darla because I told everybody in the introduction that you have been guest blogging for Window Works during the holiday season. And so if anybody wants, of course, they're going to see you on your own website. But if they go to windowworks-nj.com, you'll see various blog posts that Laura has done for us all season, telling people about how to decorate for the holidays and getting their house ready for guests and so forth. But we got connected through Darla. How did you meet Darla?
So I use the Ivy Mark platform to do all my kind of business management software and all that. And they have an incredible just design community. And Darla is a user of Ivy as well. And so she started her own blog Facebook page.
Right. Okay.
And it's called the Design Blog Laboratory.
Yeah, it's great.
Which is awesome. Totally. Yeah, right. It's so helpful. Just great information, cross, content exchange, and you just learn a lot. And she was just so sweet. Like, we just kind of been following each other and commenting on each other's posts. And I always just think people who start these Facebook pages are like really brave. I don't know. I could never do that. And so I kind of already thought really highly of her. That wow, like she's like doing her own thing. She has several thousands of followers on her Instagram. Like she's very successful, and I really liked her work. I just liked her. I just got good vibes, like even through the web, even
right.
through Facebook,
it's true. I agree. Yeah.
You could just like sense these things. So she started just like commenting and following me on my own blog, and she just reached out and said, hey, like, I know, I'm good friends with Luann, and she mentioned that she was looking for, someone to help guest blog for her. Like, would you be interested? And I was like, what? I totally said that. I was like, babe, come in here. My husband's in the other office. Babe, come in here. He's like, what? I was like, I think I just got invited to like possibly guest blog for Luann. And he was like, he knows all about you because like I say, it all started from somewhere, right? And it started from me listening to your podcast.
That's amazing.
So I was like, okay. I was kind of just like, and she said, you just need to do it. Like, don't overthink it.
Right.
Again, right? Like you were saying, don't overthink it.
Right.
Just do it. And I was like, okay. So that was that. And I just felt so honored. It's not like I've even met Darla in person. We just know each other from, her Facebook page and blogging and just supporting one another. But again, right? All about like the business relationships. And this may sound really silly, but I had never even had a Facebook page until I started my business. It was like my goal in life to never have a Facebook account. And my friends would like threaten to open up secret accounts from all the time. So the fact that I'm a part of these like few different design Facebook pages is like a big deal.
Yeah.
So
but they're great, aren't they?
They are. They're invaluable. And so, from being on that, to me, that was like a part of my networking. Like that was
Right.
a part of me going out, putting myself out there, getting out of my comfort zone. I saw
Right.
this page and thought this would help. This would help have good insight from my blog, and I can connect with other professionals. And then sure enough, boom, there
Yeah.
you go.
Well,
And
I
Darla,
tell you, it's funny because on my end, how that happened was really funny. I have to tell you that that whole thing from beginning to end was about maybe 18 minutes. So I don't know what I was doing, but I don't know, God knows where my ideas come from, but it's usually listening to somebody else's podcast or whatever. And I was literally in my bathroom in the morning, getting dressed, doing makeup, brushing teeth, all of that. And I always have somebody's podcast on when I'm doing all that. And all of a sudden I was like, like, because I always struggle with the Window Works blog because, you know, I don't have the time, energy, or desire to do the
it's a
blog.
lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
and truthfully, I'm not. You guys, I'm not like shocking anybody. I'm not interested in the design. You know, like if I could write the blog all day about business, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not exactly going to attract window treatment people to it, right? And so, I was really thinking on two fronts. I was like, you know, you got to get your game up over there. You know, you're just going to have to. And I was like, how am I going to do that? And then whatever happened in the podcast I was listening to, and I was like, oh, what if I had a guest blogger? And so I literally, because I had already met Darla through the podcast, you know, Mark McDonough from Tastefully Inspired and mentioned her. And then I met her on social media, and then she was on the show. And then I knew that she had this Design Bloggers Laboratory. And so I said to her, I literally texted her, and I was like, I think it was Facebook Messenger even, and I just said, you know, is this a crazy idea to think that an interior designer out there might want to guest blog for Window Works? And I said, say yes if it is. And so she comes back, she goes, no, I think that would be amazing. I think anybody would want to do that. And I just said, well, right, but I don't want it to be a user situation. I said, if you really think somebody be interested, I said, then, you know, I would like to, you know, find somebody to do that. And so she said exactly what I hope she said, which was, would you like me to find somebody for you? And I was like, yes, Darla, thank you
Yes,
for
please.
reading my mind. I was like, well, now that you mention it, I said, I'd love for you to do that for me. And so she said, okay. She goes, do you want me to suggest, you know, 2 or 3 for you, and then you have a conversation or see their writing? I'm like, and no, Darla, I want you to just find me somebody. If you think they're good, I'm good with it. Like, this is not now a project for Luann. No.
Yeah.
You know,
That's the baton, yeah.
literally, she goes, okay. She goes, got it, on it. And literally, I'm going to tell you what, we're texting back and forth, and I would brush my teeth and answer a text, and then put my mascara on and answer another text. And literally, like 14 minutes later, she's like, okay, spoke to Laura Thurman. She's interested. I think you're going to love her. She's adorable. She writes great, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's it. Tell her to email me. We're done. I mean, it was like 18 minutes. And I was like, I come downstairs. I'm like, Vincenz, we have a blogger for Window Works.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Make me think. See, again, door open. You put it out there, ask the question, and then your need was fulfilled.
Yes,
like, there you go.
It's the truth. So and of course your writing is beautiful, and you really do a beautiful job both for us and for your own work. It's good. So, and I just want to say one other thing before I let you go. I wanted to bring up because I thought it was important to bring up. It's something that I've never seen in almost 2 years of researching interior designers. You have on your website, you have this description of, it's called Off the Shelf, and then it says mainstream. I can't read my own writing right now. Mainstream. Oh my God.
Oh, and then to the trade. Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it just scribbles after that? Mainstream. And then you have to the trade, quality, and exclusive. What's mainstream and something? Mainstream and what? On time? Did I write? What the heck? Can you imagine?
Like retail, like just like straight up.
Oh, that's
retail.
the word, mainstream and retail. Yes. Can't read my own handwriting. Okay, so you have off the shelf, and then you have it equals mainstream and retail, and then you have to the trade equals quality and exclusive. And you do this little paragraph basically educating the people, the consumers, the potential clients that come to your website about off the shelf and to the trade. And I thought that was pretty clever. And so can you tell me what moved you to include that so prominently on your website, and what results and what conversations have come about with your clients because of it?
Well, I just, in a lot of the different Facebook pages that I'm a part of, there's always this conversation about clients shopping us,
Mm-hmm.
meaning they go out and they try to price match or find it better or cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, a big part of my job as a designer is education. Like, that's just so big. Like, most people don't know how much things really cost and good quality things that will
Mm-hmm.
last a long time. They only know the West Elms, the Pottery Barns, Restoration Hardware. And I'm not, there's nothing wrong with any of that. Like, there's kind of a place for it all. I really believe really high
Mm-hmm.
end and just straight up affordable. There's a place for it all. But to set the expectation and just to help educate the client, I just wanted it to like live somewhere on the front page of my website where they could read on their own and hopefully get a sense of how our industry works and what the difference is between going to Target and, buying something from Lee or from Detroit Restoration Rugs, from whatever it is, like the quality and the experience and what you're going to get. Like, there's a distinct difference. We know it. I know it. Us designers know it, but I feel like the client is always so clueless. Like, they just don't really know. And so I just felt like, I'm just going to have this. And that's what I put the header is understanding the difference so that you really get it. Like, what's something that's mass produced in a factory, quick turnaround versus something that's handmade, a longer lead time, and that you can custom to no end. And then hopefully that'll like also clarify for the client, that they can speak more clearly to me. Like, actually, I don't mind off the shelf stuff. That's
Right.
fine. I don't need it to be custom. I don't want to wait 10 weeks. No, I want it now. Okay, fine. Or I really want it to feel special and different. I want to pick the fabric. I want it to last me 10 plus years. So they understand there's a difference. And so I just thought it was neat to just kind of have it live on the website.
I do. I agree too. I think it's amazing. I think it's so genius. What I always love, this is what I love. I love when anything in my mind that's ever difficult to approach, if you do it from the outset, it to me eliminates so many of the additional problems that come when you have avoided something from the outset. So in every situation, whether it's a difficult conversation with an employee, a difficult conversation with a client, or if it's like this, instead of what you're saying is instead of knee deep in the middle of the project and constantly having to educate and explain, I know when you ordered your sofa from XYZ place on your own last year, it came in a minute and a half, but this one was custom. You remember we ordered it custom, so you're like setting it out there from the beginning. Here's the way this industry works. It's this way or this way. Which lane do you want to go down with me? You know what I mean? I think it's great. I love it. I think it's really awesome.
And I will just say, Luann, if I can just add this last little thing, something I've been learning in regards to the whole just networking and building relationships is really, I try really hard to kind of have the giver's gain, kind of mentality. Like, it can't just be all about me and what's in it for me. And I feel really blessed, and I hope she knows, I'm for sure she knows how grateful I am for Amy and all the connections I've made through her and her really taking me under her wing. But I'm constantly thinking about her too and her business. Like, I'm constantly thinking like,
her?
what designer, what brand do I know could use her services? And with you, like, what designer do I know who doesn't have a podcast that's like feeding them all this awesome information? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's cyclical. So to really to be giving into things, same thing with Jane, like, which designers have never heard of Steelyard and this awesome resource? Like, so I see that as like my way to give back. You know what I mean? Like, they're giving so much, and I need to be actively thinking about how I can give back too, so that we're all growing and we all feel like invested and appreciated. That's another thing. I mean, if you're lucky to get a mentor or get that awesome meeting with someone or be featured, like, it's just so important to show gratitude, I feel.
I agree. I think I agree with so many of the things that you said today. I think that, look, I know that you pine for wishing you had started it as a younger person, but I think you're well on your way. And I don't think I don't think it's going to matter that you didn't start until a couple of years ago, recognizing the power of relationships and networking and so forth like that, in relation to your business, of course. So, I'm just going to say a little shout out to Darla too, because if somebody is a new listener to the podcast, of course, we've mentioned a lot of previous podcasts in our conversation, but Darla was episode 203. And Darla's, she's in like not even 1 year in business as we speak. Did you know that?
No.
See?
You just never know. You never know. I can't
Her
believe
year
that.
anniversary is going to come up January, February-ish. Yes.
Man, and she's like doing a show house. Did you see
I'm
that?
telling you. I know.
Girl, unbelievable.
Over
See?
10,000 followers on Instagram.
Wait, pause. I still can't believe she's only been in business a year.
I know.
With so many followers, I was like, what is going on, Darla? Like, what's
I
in the
know.
sauce? Like, what's in the air? I mean,
It's the
you're breathing.
truth.
Darla.
Yeah, I
Love
know.
her.
So, yeah, it's great. Well, I have to say, I think that you're very inspiring, and everything that you're doing, you're bringing a lot of energy to it, a lot of intention to it. You're asking what your why is, and I just think it's pretty amazing the doors that you are, just pushing in with a little toe and walking through. And like you said, you remember always to be grateful and to share back, and that's really that's the secret sauce in all of it, right?
I agree. Thanks so much for having me, Luann. I feel super honored, and just like I said, I'm a fan of you and the podcast, and I'm always preaching for you too. I'm trying to get new listeners.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of yours too. This is what I loved about Laura, that she's an action taker. This is my love language. Not just dreaming, not just making to-do lists that are actually someday to-do lists, but doing. Her husband suggested she see if there was a podcast out there to help her grow her business. And she found one. She found mine. Then on the podcast, the very first show, as she said, she hears Amy Flurry. And of course, she's impressed. I mean, how could you not be? And she doesn't even stop there. She doesn't just get the book and read the book and stop there. She reaches out. She emails Amy and she asks her some questions and some advice. And from there, she meets Jane Dagme of Steelyard. And then somewhere along the line, she gets connected to Darla Powell. And from there, she gets connected to me. So I told you the story on the show how Darla connected us, and she has been a blog contributor for my day job, Window Works, for the last several months this fall of 2017. And then finally, when I go down to Atlanta at America's Mart in September 2017, and I meet Laura in person. And it was at this meeting that we decided that she would be on the show. So, you know what it reminds me of? Have you ever read that book to one of your kids or a niece or a nephew? If you give a mouse a cookie, then he's going to want some milk. And if you give him milk, he'll ask for a napkin. Well, networking, building relationship is exactly like this. Take one step. It leads to another. Take that one, and it might lead to another. But you have to take that first step. You must decide to take action. You might have to get beyond your comfort zone, but it will be worth it when you do. It always is. So if you're struggling with this, if you're not sure what to do first, where to spend your time and energy, I can help you with that. I'm doing both one-on-one coaching, which is virtual, and I have definitely and possibly 2 masterminds forming in January 2018. Look, if one of these is, good for you, this could be your first step. Okay, so the one-on-one is good for you if you need personalized, specific help with your business, your challenge, your blocks. That's a good answer for you there. You look at masterminds if you need help in multiple areas, if you're longing for a community of designers that you can make relationships with and you can continue to collaborate with long after the mastermind is ended. If you're interested in either, remember, take action. Be a doer, not an intender. Be just like Laura and create the business you want to have. I'd love to help you do that. If you're interested in something like that, email me at info@luannigara.com. Okay? Reminder, I will be at International Window Covering Expo in Tampa this coming March 27 and 28. I'll be doing 2 sessions, one on high ticket sales, how to, why to, all the good stuff. It's going to go deep into the sales process and help you break through some of the mindsets that you have and some of the successful ways to comfortably accomplish high ticket sales. And then I'll be doing a joint session with Madeline McRae on intentional goal setting for 2018. What it is, how it is, all the good stuff. And guess what? Did you know who's keynoting this year? The guys from Madcap Cottage, Jason Oliver Nixon and John Locke. That's right. And don't forget, Jana Phipps, the trim queen, will be there, and so will Deb Barrett. So there's a ton of us all going down. Why don't you come and join us and hang out with us too? I want to give a big, huge thanks for the latest iTunes reviews from Kim Johnson in Las Vegas. Hi, Kim. How are you? And from Hollywood
Holly Bellamy in Texas. Hi, Holly. And Laura Brzgowi, Your Life in Full Color. Hi, Laura. How are you? I usually see you on Facebook, Laura. So thank you so much for the iTunes reviews. I really, really do appreciate them so much. Alrighty, I hope that you enjoyed the show today. I hope that you learned something today. I hope you're thinking and planning and doing. And if you had a good time, if you learned something, I hope you'll tell a friend about the show. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.